Hi, Anxious-Avoidant here, relationship therapist. Today, we're going to talk about how to repair the anxious-avoidant bond. If you're in that situation, dating someone who has insecure attachment and you want to make it work. Perhaps you're in love with that person, but you keep on fighting, you keep on seeing them deactivating, withdrawing. Anytime you have a fight, you break up. You know you're in love, you know they're in love with you, but you just want to know how to make it work. And this is what we will cover today in this video.
IGetMyExBack.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
So first of all, let's explore a little bit the anxious-avoidant dynamic and understand why we have two driving forces that are opposite. On one end, we have the anxious people who seek closeness, who want to be reassured, and they have a deep fear of abandonment. On the other end, we have avoidant people who value independence. They want to be on their own, they like to do things on their own, and they value autonomy. And they have a fear of commitment, of intimacy. And you see, just by defining those two opposites, we see that there's a problem. How can we function? How can we make it work when we have fears that are incompatible, needs that are incompatible? How can we make it work? And that's why we have this push-pull dynamic, constantly dating someone anxious, dating someone avoidant, because we're opposite. How can we make it work? If I want closeness and you fear intimacy, if I need you in my life to reassure me, but you don't have any emotional bandwidth, any emotional capabilities to listen, to understand me. And so we discuss in this video that they both, where they come from, and how to navigate that space, because there is a space between those two extremes, because obviously I've listed extreme cases. Those two extremes, there's a space where you can navigate, where you can build your happy place. We're going to discuss about also the patterns, the different triggers. And it's by recognizing those patterns, those triggers, that you will be able to navigate and communicate effectively with your partner. So just a very simple graph to explain the dynamic of anxious-avoidant. Anxious gets close, for example. They want reassurance, they are sad. The avoidant will run away. I'm scared of intimacy, it's hard for me to respond to your bid for emotional intimacy. And so the anxious person will start a fight. The avoidant avoids a solution. I don't want to discuss this right now. Let me go play golf today. I don't want to deal with these things. And then you have a reconciliation, because at the end of the day, you love yourself, you love each other. You have deep feelings for that person. You are happy together. When those moments together are amazing, but still, you keep on going in this circle again and again. Let me know in the comment section if this is how you feel when you're dating your partner. So the thing is, you have to understand that the reason we are opposite is not about reality, it's not factual, it's how we interpret the relationship. The lens, I usually use the term of lens. Some people have a certain way of looking at things, so they wear different colored lens, pink, blue, yellow, green, and that's what happens here. Is for the same situation, for the same event, you will react differently. So for anxious people, for example, if I give you a very simple example, if your partner withdraws, if your partner asks I don't want to deal with that, I'm going to play golf. You feel that it's rejection. You feel that you're not valued. Where in a sense, that's how they deal with stress. That's how they deal with conflict. I'm not saying it's the right way to deal with conflict and it's the right way to deal with stress, but that's how they deal with it. And when they do that, they don't do it to reject you. They don't do it to hurt you. That's just, in a way, it's very selfish, but that's how they used to deal with those situations. That's their coping mechanism. For avoidant, when you seek closeness, they feel overwhelmed. They feel, I can't do that. It's too much for me. And what's going on is that you ask your partner to meet some of your unmet emotional needs or fears. I want to be reassured. I don't want you to abandon me. I don't want you to leave me. And I need reassurance. And you seek that to a person who's avoidant. And the avoidant person wants to be reassured in a way that, okay, you're going to leave me alone. And so those two opposites, those two unmet needs framework will clash constantly. And this is why it's important to understand your partner's fear, your own fears. It's about developing what I call pragmatic empathy. Not necessarily about understanding, putting yourself in their shoes, but putting yourself in their shoes using their lens, using their operating system, their belief system. Because you're going to not only look at the situation from their angle, but also from how they react. And it's very important to develop this skill, because if you want to be happy in any single relationship, and even in the context of work, it's so important to develop this concept of pragmatic empathy. So how do you communicate with your partner? First of all, you practice active listening. So active listening is using how, what, why questions, ask open-ended questions, be a listener, wait for the other one to speak, validate the person rather than giving tips, rather than relate your own stories. Oh yeah, it happened to me. No, you just validate, you just prompt them to expand, to open up a little bit more. Especially if you're dating someone avoidant, usually avoidant, they have a hard time opening up. And if you keep on answering on their behalf, on giving them, multiple answer questions, they're not going to open up. So leave enough space, use silence. It's so powerful. As a therapist, it's something, when you apply it, it's amazing. When you just pause for 1 or 2 seconds, the awkwardness of the silence provides so much result. Of course, when you're a therapist and you talk with your clients, but also in the context of a relationship. And again, you can apply this in the workplace. Use I feel rather than you did this. You never do that. You start with I feel this way when this happens, right? It's about I feel my needs are unmet and I feel this way. I'm sad, I'm upset. If you start speaking like this with someone who loves you, who cares about you, he or she would never dismiss you. They might not understand why you're upset, why you're sad. They might be thinking, again, because they haven't developed their pragmatic empathy, I wouldn't be like this, I wouldn't react like this if something like that happened to me. But if you start saying like, I'm sad when this happens, they will listen to the I'm sad, and they will start thinking, oh, I need to do something about that. Because I don't want the person I love to be sad. I don't want the person that I love to be upset. And in order to make sure that you're on the same page, it's very important to organize regular check-ins, regular catch-up. I've noticed that people are great in the workplace, they are super organized, they are proactive with their clients, they know what they want, but when it comes to their partner, when it comes to their spouse, they don't make the effort to just simply ask them, how's everything? Is there anything I can do for you? Let's plan the weekend together. How would that look like? I don't know a lot of people who are doing that. And very often they go with the flow. Right? They make assumptions, we'll see, and so on and so forth. And what happens is that will create a lot of tension. So be proactive, treat your couple a little bit like a business, and you'll see you'll be happier and you'll build a nurturing and fulfilling environment with your partner. And so, again, another very important thing you need to foster is the emotional intimacy, especially if you're dealing with someone avoidant. It's about how you can lead the way, be a role model, showing them your fears, your dreams, because that's how you build trust, that's how you build intimacy. It's about sharing your insecurities, sharing the things you're scared of. Again, this is really true in the context of loving relationship. In the workplace, in other areas of life, we keep things secret. Okay? And that's why avoidant, they're great in the workplace. They will basically work long hours, stay at work very late because nobody would bother them with those things. And so understand it's about disclosing versus arguing. Most people, they argue 90% of the time and they disclose 10% of the time. Another thing is to create shared experiences, is by doing things together, learning a new skill together. Very often we feel like it's about communication. If we want to address our problems, we need to communicate. Not necessarily. It's about doing, sharing moments together, sharing memories together. And so you'll find that doing provides a lot of result versus talking. And when I say doing, it's not sitting next to your husband or your wife watching Netflix. It's like doing an activity, wine tasting, hiking. Doing something together for a couple of hours will increase intimacy. And if you're dating someone avoidant, they will open up in those contexts rather than just going for a coffee date, face to face, discussing like, okay, so what's going on in your life? They're gonna feel really threatened by this kind of setting. You have, if you're anxious, to learn to be a bit independent. Relationship is important, your partner is important, but your life, yourself, are equally even more important. And so it's important to understand that you have different spaces, your work, different lives, your work, yourself, your family, your husband, your wife, and it's important to manage those things. Don't be only focusing on the kids. Don't be only focusing on your partner. Don't be only focusing on your work, because otherwise you will burn out in some areas of your life, or you will sort of neglect one other element of your life. It's important to increase the moment of physical and emotional closeness. It's something that you do step by step, especially if you're in this anxious avoidant. Very often there's a friction between the anxious who wanted to speed up things, to get emotionally intimate, to open up, to disclose things, to talk about the future. Do it step by step. You will get there if you use effective communication, if you use pragmatic empathy, you will get there. Take your time, assess the progress, and bring that person, bring your partner on that journey. Now let's talk about conflict a little bit. 5 ways to manage conflict. First one is to identify triggers. If you identify triggers, you know the things you have to say, you know how your partner behaves around those things, and agree on de-escalation strategies. Nothing comes out of a conflict when you're angry, when you're upset, when you have very strong emotions toward the other. Nothing will come out of this. So to find ways, okay, when we say this, maybe we have a safe word, and we say the word, and we stop. We don't talk about it for half an hour. We sort of do our own things, and then we talk again about what happened. It's about solving issues together. The say is about, if you want to be happy in relationship, it's not about winning, it's not about being right, right? If you want to be right in relationship, you'll be single or you'll be unhappy. The whole point is, how can we collaborate? We are partners, how can we collaborate on a solution? We have a problem, maybe you feel it's my problem, maybe you feel I'm the problem, but still, in the context of a relationship, we have a problem. Let's look at this problem together. As I said in the intro, take breaks during arguments, because otherwise you will say things you'll regret, you will do things you will regret, nothing comes out of a heated argument. And if you said something wrong, if you sort of went a little bit overboard, apologize. There's nothing wrong by apologizing. And I think you earn so much more by just saying, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. And it's not about being over apologetic, but just like admit your mistakes. We all make mistakes. And show your partner that when you make mistake, you are accountable. You accept and you are again, solution focused. I did a mistake, I made a mistake, I said something I shouldn't have, and I'm sorry about that. If you're like this, then the partner, the person you're with, will be more likely to collaborate with you, to trust you, to open up. Because the thing is, if you don't apologize, if you don't de-escalate, what happens is that your partner, if you're anxious and your partner is avoidant, will dismiss, will avoid any conflict, will say yes, thinking no. And gradually you will create a situation where at some stage your partner will feel like, I don't want this anymore, I've been lying for 10 years, I've been living a life that doesn't necessarily, I don't feel it's my life, and I'm gone. And that happens very often because we don't sink in, we don't check regularly, and we don't apologize. So it's about solution, and the more you do that, the smaller the problems and the easiest it gets to manage conflict. Another thing that you could try is to obviously get some help from a counselor. So either it's couple counseling, one-to-one counseling, it really depends on your need. Maybe it's about talking about your trauma and insecurities, and therefore one-to-one would be more suitable. If it's about conflict management, if it's about relationship, then couple counseling would work. Let me know actually, because I usually work one-to-one. If that's something you'll be interested in, I'm working on a project to help couples right after their marriage on how to consolidate their marriage and their relationship, how to anticipate the 7-year mark, which is statistically the length of marriage people divorce on average. Most people divorce in the US, because it's the biggest statistics, after 7 years of marriage. So the point is, how can I help those people before 7 years, right after they get married, when they start having kids, how we can consolidate together those relationships. So let me know if you're interested in the comment section, and if there are few people interested, I will work on something and let you know. Another thing is, I talk about therapists and experts. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It could be trusted people, friends who can act as peacemakers. Sometimes it's hard to communicate with our spouse, it's hard to discuss with our spouse, so sometimes you need a confidant, you need someone who knows both of you, who could help facilitate the conversation. Now, also very important, it's a long-term goal. Right now, there's a lot of emotions, you feel angry, you feel upset, you feel very much today, he's a pain in the ass. Tomorrow, she's so difficult. It's a long term, it takes patience. What really matters is the progress, the effort. It's about the small achievements, right? Maybe you're dating someone avoidant and it's very difficult for them to speak up. And just by saying like, I really appreciated the fact that you told me about your mom, about your childhood the other day. It meant a lot. For you, if you didn't know about attachment style, that's nothing. Because it's easy for you to talk to anyone about your insecurities, your trauma. But for them, it required a lot of effort, a lot of work. And it's important, that's why it's important to understand your partner's attachment, their triggers, their insecurities, their limitations. Because when they make an effort, you need to celebrate this effort. The same way, if you're avoidant and dating someone anxious and that person is finally taking a new hobby, doing things on their own, celebrate this. Or maybe, you're going, I don't know, on a one-day trip or on a weekend trip without her, and she's not complaining, she's not stressed, she hasn't been harassing you by text, and you tell them like, I really appreciate the fact that, you let me go on that trip and, that you trust me. So that's the first part. It's also about commitment. Committed to your growth, committed to supporting each other. You're watching this video, hopefully your partner, not necessarily is watching this video, but your partner will also be doing the work, curious about attachment theory. It's about being solution-oriented. And last but not least, as I said, it needs to be mutual. You're watching the video, you're doing the work, this is amazing. Now it's the turn of your partner to do it. Now it's also the role of the person you're sharing your life with to do the work, because otherwise it's not going to work. Otherwise you're going to be ending up in this circle, anxious avoidant, triggering the other. Regardless of how secure you are, the person you have in front of you will always respond based on their insecurities, based on their fears, and you will end up every time in the same place. If you have any other questions, let me know. There's also a guide somewhere in the description about how to dating, the no-nonsense guide to dating avoidance. And I will see you next time. Take care.